So if you're a real estate wholesaler and you've got a contract on the property and now you're looking to sell that agreement, what do you tell the seller? And how do you then structure the whole logistics of going out and getting the property shown? That is something that really is something that might be troubling for you. It's troubling for a lot of people because they get a lot of anxiety around that, because in their mind they're like, wow, I spent all this time, energy, and effort to finally find a deal, and then now is it all going to fall apart because I'm going to mishandle this whole situation? And in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly what I do and the concept behind how do you go out and you show these properties. Now, in this scenario, what I'm talking about is if the art of going out and becoming a real estate investor through wholesaling. And wholesaling is the absolute best way to get started in this business. Wholesaling is the opposite of what you see on TV with a lot of these TV shows. And these TV shows, they go out, they buy a property, they go ahead and they close on the property. That means they go to the bank and take money out of their bank account and close on it. And then they're gonna hire a contractor. Then they're gonna go ahead and try to fix it up. And then hopefully 3, 4, 5 months from now, if the market doesn't go to crap, they're gonna be able to sell that property and then make a profit. And that is a very risky model, especially if you are brand new in the business. You don't want to do that. You want to do wholesaling. And wholesaling teaches you the most fundamental skill when it comes to real estate investing, and that is how to go out and find deals. And when you are an expert at finding deals, the world is your oyster, because now you have a lot of options. Number one is you can take that contract, you can sell it, you can sell your agreement with the owner. And by that I mean that let's say you're the property owner. You and I are this. I do my marketing, and I find you as a property owner. And you have a property that you need to sell and it needs repairs. You don't want to make the repairs, so we agree that I'm going to buy it at a particular price, and that price is below market. Now what's going to happen is that now you and I have a contract, and so then I'm going to go out and find other real estate investors that want to do all those things that those people on TV want to do, and I'm going to go ahead and then offer the contract to them, and I'm going to go ahead and make a spread between the price that I paid with you and the price that I offered them the contract, and that could be anywhere from a couple $1,000s to as much as $90,000, which is the most that I've made in a single deal. And I can't guarantee that you're going to make $90,000 on your first deal, but you know that the potential is there. Sure beats going to yard sales and buying stuff on garage sales and trying to sell it on eBay. If you're going to do that, it's just as much work. Why don't you go ahead and do real estate, flip a contract, and make a whole lot of money? Now, in this scenario, now we have this property on the contract. Now we've got to find buyers for these properties. But now let's assume that now you found a buyer for this property. Now, how are you going to get this buyer inside of the property? Now, there's two conversations you need to have. There's actually a couple conversations you need to have. Number one is with the owner. When we're talking with the owner, we tell the property owner that, hey, I need to get inside the property. And now the owner might say, well, don't you need to get inside the property first before you even negotiate with me? And we come to an agreement on price? And I would say, you tell the owner, no, Mr. Seller, I don't have to do that. In fact, even if I were to do that, it's a wasted effort. Why? Because at the end of the day, we know that the property needs work. We know that the property needs fixing up. And so what we're looking to do is we're looking to buy it and then do the repairs. You and I are having a conversation. You've told me what the property needs. I'm accepting the property in the current condition based on what you're telling me. I know it needs work. However, what we're looking for is to make sure that, hey, you didn't tell us that an asteroid came through the roof of the house and now it has a hole in the roof, and you didn't tell me that. Like, we don't want, so we're just looking to make sure that it's exactly as you told me about the property. So, Mr. Seller, what's going to happen is that you and I are going to go ahead and get the agreement signed. I'll send you the document via HelloSign. You're going to see it. If you have any questions about it, let me know. Once you go ahead and authorize the agreement, I'll go ahead and submit that property to our closing department. And now they're going to go ahead and set up a funding inspection. These are with not a bank, not a Chase or Bank of America or anything like that. This is with our funding sources that just want to make sure that, hey, this property is standing, that it's not like a big pile of dirt in the middle of nowhere. So there, now sometimes we may have to go and have 2 or 3 different funding partners take a look at the property, but typically we try to minimize it to 1 or 2. And that's all that I need. So you're presenting your buyer as a funding source, which makes sense, because then at the end of the day, they're going to be on the HUD statement as the buyer, So it's a better explanation than if you say, hey, I'm going to have my contractor, and then now your contractor is the buyer too as well. No, it's my funding source. And if a question ever comes up, you can always say to the seller, look, I do deals in a variety of different ways. A lot of times I bring in partners, and we structure the deal in a way that I get some money out of the deal initially, but they're the ones that are closing it, and those are people that I have relationships with. And in the end, that's okay too. So again, we're presenting the people coming into the house to the seller as our funding source. Now, the second conversation we're going to have is with the buyers. Now, with the buyers, we want to make sure that the buyers we are speaking with know and understand our process. So the questions that I'm going to ask the buyer is, number one, is are you familiar with wholesaling? Are you familiar with buying a contract off someone like me? So let's say if they say no, then you explain to them. Typically, the majority of the buyers we're dealing with, and the majority of the buyers that I recommend you deal with as a beginning real estate investors, are people that already know the game and already know what they're doing. So you want somebody that when you ask that question, they say, yes, I'm interested. I know how it works with wholesalers. I buy properties from wholesalers all the time. So yes, I'm perfectly 100% okay with the process. And that's what you want to hear. Now, the second thing is, before you get the buyer to go and inspect the property, I recommend that you will have a slight discussion with them around the price. And by that I mean that, let's say you're asking $100,000 for the property, and the buyer wants to take a look at it. Maybe he's seen some photos, maybe he hasn't, and you say, look, here's what the seller says that the property needs. Based on that information, if everything looks, about the same, is that a good price for you? Do you feel that that's a pretty good price? And they might say, I think so. I gotta look at it. What you want to know is, if the buyer says to you, if you're asking 100, and the buyer says, oh no, I would never buy a house for 100,000 in that area. I would have to buy it for at least, at the most, 50, 60,000. I don't care what condition it is or what you told me. Then it's a wasted effort for you to get that property shown to that buyer, because they're not even in the ballpark. Now, what I tell the buyers is, hey, Mr. Buyer, when you go to the property, you can go ahead and ask the sellers any questions you want about the property, about anything you see. If you're looking around and you're like, oh my God, there's a hole in the ceiling, ask him about it. Don't stay silent. I want you to know every single thing about this property, but obviously you're not going to discuss price with them, because I have it on the contract and I'm selling you the agreement based on me assigning the contract to you. So there's no discussion around price. And they should know that, and they should be perfectly okay with that. And if somebody who's buying properties already from real estate wholesalers, and who have bought many properties from wholesalers in the past, then for them, that should not be an issue at all whatsoever. Now, the other person that you might have to have a conversation with could be the tenant. So let's say the property owner has a tenant at the property, and now you're showing it with a tenant there. What are the circumstances around there? Sometimes the seller says, I don't want the tenant to know. And you have to kind of let the seller know, look, the tenant has got to know. However, are you afraid that the tenant's going to be upset at you? We'll smooth it out. We'll tell the tenant, look, this is a great thing. We're going to be buying the property. We're not going to ask you to move out of the property. If you owe rent to the previous owner, we're not going to come back to you for that. We want to make things better. We want to make this an amazing opportunity for you, that now you're going to be like, wow, I love the fact that you guys are buying this property. So I told the owner, look, we're not going to rock the boat. We want the tenants to stay. We want them to be happy with us. And so we got to have that conversation. We got to be able to know and understand what the situation is with the tenants. Because also, keep in mind, this is for you. I'm talking to you, not like script playing here. When you close on a property and it has a tenant, you're going to need an estoppel letter. You're going to need an estoppel letter. Is a document signed by the tenant and the owner that says, hey, how much is the rent per month? Is there a security deposit? Is there any back payment, some past due rent due, and all that stuff? And they have to be on the same page. A legitimate buyer is not going to close without that. So it's going to come out. So you got to get the owner to agree to say, yes, it's okay, talk to the tenant. And it's a lot easier if we can just talk directly with the tenant, and so then I instruct the buyer to just be okay with, hey, you're gonna talk to the tenant. They're gonna stay there. They're not gonna move out at the time that you buy the property, because that's what we negotiated with the owner. But you're gonna talk to them, ask whatever questions you want. If you ask him, hey, what do you think? Is there anything wrong with the property? So again, you're telling the buyer, look, I want you to ask any questions you want about this property. I want you to interrogate the tenant as much as you want. don't kill the deal, right? But at the same time, I want to make sure that you're okay with everything that is that about the property, because I want you to buy it, and that serves for a good relationship with the buyer. But again, they're not going to have an issue with that. Now, the other question comes up is, what if the seller is going to meet the buyer there? What do you do next? Well, there's a couple options. It depends on your conversation with the buyer. If the buyer's used to dealing with wholesalers and is always used to dealing and buying properties from wholesalers, they know the deal. They know that they're not going to, try to go behind your back and then kill this deal, when in fact they could have gotten more deals from you in the future, and then now they've killed the golden goose, and they're not going to do that. So in that instance, if you're dealing with a real estate investor that knows what he's doing, then you can send them directly with the tenant. Meet there with the owner to open up the property, etc. I always like to have somebody else, like I could hire a mobile notary that's going to go and be able to show the property. Is going to be able to take pictures just in case this buyer isn't interested in the property. Then at least I get in that one showing, I do get pictures of the property, so now I can show it to other buyers as well. If I'm working with a realtor in the area, where I've said to the realtor, look, I'm going to give you all the excess leads that I have. Sometimes I may ask you to go and show a property. I'll get you paid on the property. Depending on your involvement in the deal, it could be, $500, or it could be where I pay you the selling commission on the property, just because I need you to facilitate a couple things. So maybe the agent might be the one that shows up. There's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. But when all is said and done, bottom line is, number one is present your buyers as a funding source. Number two is, in the beginning, work with buyers that know the game, that are used to dealing with real estate investors and real estate wholesalers specifically. And now they are okay with meeting with the sellers and are not going to rock the boat. And yes, maybe if you deal with an experienced person versus somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, you might sell the property to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. For a one-off deal, and make a little bit more money. I always prefer to deal with experienced investors. I may not make as much as I can on every single deal, but I have consistent buyers that will continue to buy products, and it makes my life a lot easier when it comes to doing these type of deals. Hope you found this video helpful. As always, there might be a couple videos that might show up somewhere here, somewhere there, somewhere down here, or anywhere. That's right. And as always, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. Oh my God, there's so many mosquitoes here. I gotta go, I gotta cook dinner for my family, and I'll talk to you later.